Hi everyone, welcome back to the Casual Watch Review channel. So in this week's episode, I'm going to be doing another comparison, so another kind of like head-to-head. So I'm wearing today my Invicta Mickey Mouse Pro Diver. For regular viewers of the channel, you know I've done a couple of videos on this now, and I thought I was going to really dislike this watch when I got it. In fact, if you remember back for some of those earlier videos, I'd actually made a disdaining comment about Invicta, which a lot of that I still stand by. Those monstrous watches, still don't get them. But I bought this Invicta Diver and honestly really fell in love with it. So what I thought might be interesting is to try and merge those two videos together. So the one that was about what I thought of the Invicta Pro Diver, and then the other one which I did on why I sold my SKX009. So I kindly borrowed this from the person, from a friend, Dwight, who actually now owns this watch. And we're going to do a comparison between the two. Now, I appreciate this is probably going to be a controversial or a touchy subject, considering the amount of love there is for the SKX009. But I think this is a more than worthy showdown between these two watches. So we'll face them off together and then see which comes out on top. So let's flip the camera around and get started. So here we have our two contenders. So in the left corner, we have our Invicta Pro Diver. This is my version with Mickey Mouse on the dial. And on the right-hand side, we have the legendary Seiko SKX009. So let's face these two watches off together and see who wins. So round one, let's look at movement. So actually both of these watches use a Seiko movement. The Invicta uses the NH35A movement made by TMI. And TMI is actually in the family of companies that Seiko own. This NH35A movement is actually the unbranded Seiko 4R35 movement, and I believe it's a much better specification than what's in the SKX. We've got hacking, we also have hand winding, it's an automatic movement. So the version of the NH35A movement in this Invicta has proved to be very reliable for me. I did a video on this, it's running at sort of plus or minus 3 seconds a day, which is incredible. Whereas in the SKX, we've got the standard 7S26 movement. It doesn't have hacking. It doesn't have hand winding. I think that hand winding is a must on a mechanical watch. So for round one, if we're looking at movement, I've got to have the winner as the Invicta Pro Diver. So back in the ring for round two, and that is case design. So I like the case design on both of these watches, but there's no getting around it. The Invicta Pro Diver definitely has a lot of design elements that match the Rolex Submariner. It's definitely got that homage style case to the Rolex Submariner. And when we go through to our later round where we look at dial and bezel, we'll actually talk a bit more about how much like the Rolex Submariner it is. So early in the round, I think we've got to have the winner as the Seiko SKX. It's got that very iconic case design. There's no confusing it with any other watch. We've got that crown at the 4 o'clock position, an iconic design, which it's fair to say that probably the Invicta doesn't have that iconic a design. It certainly shares its design with the Rolex Submariner, with other watches like Steinhardt and other ones. So the winner here is the Seiko SKX009. So round three, back in the ring, let's look at dial and bezel. So I personally really like the dial on the Invicta Pro Diver. We've got those applied indices, whereas the SKX has a very flat, simple dial. We've got Mickey Mouse applied on my watch, which I really like. And love it or hate it, we also have an applied Invicta logo on there as well. Whereas the dial on the SKX is just a very simple dial. There's no applied indices on here. Now, going back to the bezel on the Invicta and me talking about how much like it's like a Rolex, Well, I actually replaced the bezel on here with this kind of Pepsi bezel. But to do that, I didn't buy Invicta bezels. What I did was I actually bought bezels for Rolexes. So as you can see, these fit exactly correctly to the Invicta. So this is a Rolex bezel insert on this Invicta Pro Diver, which I found really amusing. So it's looking like the Invicta on the dial is coming in, looking the favourite for this round. But coming in right at the end of the round, I think we've got to seriously look at what these watches are used for. So these are both dive watches, the SKX009, purpose-built for diving, and that's why late in the round I've got to have it as the winner. Because when we look at the lume on these two watches, the SKX, clear winner on here. Bright, clear lume. The hands are nicely lumed. If we look at the Invicta on the right-hand side, we can only really see the lume on the hands, and I've actually replaced those hands on here. So for the dial, I've got to have the SKX009 as the winner of this round. So round 4, I had brand reputation. So both brands have a good reputation for reliability. The Invicta is actually using a Seiko movement in this model. But I believe that unfortunately this great Invicta watch actually has a tarnished reputation by some of the other kind of monstrous watches that Invicta makes. And I think unfortunately that does overshadow it for a lot of watch collectors. But with the last jab from the Invicta, getting a cheeky little uppercut in there, certainly Seiko has been having some quality issues lately. I've certainly had quality issues with Seikos recently. So even though we got in a last punch for the Invicta, I've still got to have the Seiko as the winner here on brand reputation. So far in our battle, we've got one round won for the Invicta, and we've got 3 rounds to the SKX009. So still all to play for. So back in the ring for round 5, and I had this as mod ability. So how easy is it to customize these watches yourself, really make them your own? So I mentioned in a previous round that I have modded the bezel on this Invicta and how I bought Rolex bezels. I also modded the hands on here as well to make them less kind of Rolex-like. And I also even added a bit of enamel to the side to really stand out the Invicta logo on here. Now, it's fair to say that the SKX, there's countless websites on how to mod them. The parts are easily available as well. You can also send them to other people to have them modified. But I think in this round, for me, I've got to have the Invicta as the winner just because it gave me the confidence to modify these watches. Not only can you buy Seiko parts for the 4R35 movement, but also you can buy Rolex parts to mod them with as well. So that's my winner for this round. So round 6 I had as pricing. Now I'm not talking about the manufacturer's recommended retail price for these because those are high. The SKX, I think its recommended retail price is over $400, and the Invicta, unbelievably, its recommended retail price I believe is at over $650. But what I'm talking about is what you can actually buy these watches for. So I bought this Invicta for the unbelievable price on eBay of $65, brand new. Whereas the SKX, because it's so iconic, because it's talked about on countless forums, because it's mentioned on many YouTube channels, it definitely retains its value. So you could really pick these up for around the $200 mark. Even on the second-hand market, they still retain their value. You're still looking between the $150, $200 mark for, for a decent quality version. So I think for this pricing round, for the specification that you're getting, I believe that the Invicta is the clear winner of this round. So back in the ring for the final round, and I had that as included bracelet. So I haven't got the bracelet to show you for the SKX009, but reason being is I was not a fan at all. I just found it awful. I know there's a lot of fans that really like this bracelet. Big shout out to Federico from Federico Talks Watches, who really likes his Jubilee bracelet. But I think the included bracelet that comes with the Invicta is a much more higher quality, better fitting, more solid feeling bracelet than the one that comes with the SKX009. So you can obviously buy aftermarket straps. So Uncle Seiko, who makes this really nice tropic strap on this Invicta here, also makes metal bracelets for the SKX009, so you can certainly upgrade them. But I never really liked this watch that much that I would spend that much on it. So, clear winner of this round. For the final round, I've got to have as the Invicta here. So to summarise, at the end of our battle here, that's a 4-3 victory for the Invicta here. So, probably controversial, but that was my very unscientific battle of these two watches. So I'd love to know what you guys think of this. If you leave a comment in the comment section down below, I'll always try and get back to you. You can email me across my casualwatchreview@gmail.com. You can contact me across any of my social media accounts. So anyway, guys, I hope you found that as fun as I did filming it. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time on the Casual Watch Review channel. Thanks, guys. Bye.